Yeah, also I wanted to say all the music that I play is my own music. I don't play from somebody else's compositions. It all is based on intuitive music for which you have to give yourself permission, and you have to allow the music to flow through you as it wishes. So I never know exactly. You obviously one has to practice for it to come out properly, but it is more of a meditational nature uh, than and inspirational nature than if one was playing a given score where you can interpret the score, but you're confined to the composition that you're interpreting.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, when did you first discover that you liked music in this way?
Well, when I was a child, um, I suppose I was 5 or 6, and I there was a grand piano in a room that one was seldom allowed to go into this very large 18th century manor house, and in Geneva, Switzerland, but it was at the time it was in the country with a very very large grounds that were it was very spectacular, and there was this grand salon where one could sneak in if one could escape the surveillance and play with the piano. When it was discovered that I wanted to do this, they then decided, oh, we've got to teach him music. But unfortunately, in the 40s, being taught music was that some ghastly spinster came along with a steel ruler, and there you are, and she would try to get you to do these exercises, and for every so-called wrong note, you would get hit on your little fingers with a steel ruler. On top of it, you had to write the notes in a solfège book, which meant it was a tedious chore, and it was no longer fun. And so naturally, I didn't want to do it anymore. And the grown-ups invariably would say in such a case, oh, you never stick to anything. But I lost years of music playing by having been put on the wrong track, as it were, like in the sidings, if one doesn't watch out, what I genuinely feel, is that art cannot truly be taught. You can be shown the rudiments of something, but it all depends what one wants to do. Say you're a guitar player and you want to play songs, that's what the trap that a lot of people fall into. They learn chords and they learn to play other people's songs. And once you're in that, it becomes exceedingly difficult to get out of it and actually manifest your own sound, your own music. I had the incredible privilege of being friends with the late Ike Turner, whose reputation is horrendous due to the fact that he came out of jail and they wanted to make the film What's Love Got to Do with It, where they painted him just dramatically as a sort of dreadful monster, which of course he said, well, I'm not a saint, but I certainly, he was forced not to say anything because he needed the money they were going to give him, but the conditions were draconian. He couldn't say anything about what they would do to his name and likeness, as it and that's how Ike Turner, apart from the famous incidents with Tina, but Tina retained his name. If he'd been such a monster, you know, she would have completely ditched it and all that. And they remained on, not officially, but they remained on friendly terms. I was on very close terms with him, and he was a great friend. And once he asked me to play guitar, do a part for him, and I shied away from it, saying, "Oh, I can't do it because," and I told this bullshit story that I'd been friends with people like Hendrix, Jimi Hendrix, and Eric Clapton, and you know, Keith Richards, Brian Jones, all these people, and that Mick Jagger and I started to learn together, but had, you know, he had progressed and I hadn't been able to keep up with him. So Ike Turner dismissed all these things and said, you know, these excuses are worthless. You've simply got to make this your own. And I took it to heart, and then developed a technique of playing guitar that was completely wrong, but then I obtained my own sound and my own way of achieving original results and so on. And so that was the first step in breaking away from all conventions in music. And it's become a sort of philosophy, you know, that one can do that, and one can play for one's own amazement.
So it seems like sometimes the rules are meant to be broken in order to
the rules in any kind of original art are meant to be broken, because otherwise you are part of the crowd and you are following like so many others, and there's a lot of people who are very good, but they are incapable. I've had many highly trained classical musicians from orchestras, and you say, oh, play something, try this piano out, you know, and they panic. I've literally had this guy from, you know, the Irish Philharmonic Orchestra saying, I didn't prepare anything, and he was like almost in a panic. He didn't want to just sit down and play anything.
Yeah. Another
friend is this Russian pianist who was from the, you know, an extremely early age. She was submitted to this inhumane way that child prodigies are submitted to in what was then the Soviet system, and forced, you know, to perform. And then she married somebody who was like a Svengali and wanted her to shine, and you know, it's a milieu which is extremely difficult and competitive and so on, and to play at a top level. So she had a nervous breakdown to the point that she left her husband, abandoned music, and went to Germany and was selling real estate. However, she came back and started to play intuitive music, but she said all her knowledge and all her training was a severe obstacle to her managing to break through. Freedom from the known was what she had to achieve before she could be, you know, perform successfully original material. So in a way, you're blinded by science often, and it's very interesting.